Uber did it with transportation. Airbnb, accommodation. I tried to do it with energy. What am I talking about? I'm talking about selling excess electricity to your neighbor. And I called it Ubering energy on the blockchain. When I first thought of this idea, I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. I thought it was super unique until I started Googling it and I found out that others were already talking about it and some had actually built it as well. But it didn't stop me because this project allowed me to bring together all my research in Bitcoins, blockchains, and smart contracts into something that I could show and share and allow you guys to see and experience as well. So you can actually see what all this technology is about. Now, this project here can be cut down into 4 main stages. First of all, I had to get the data. Step number 2, I had to find a way to store it somehow. Step number 3, I had to find a way to show or visualize the information to the user. And step number 4 was to sell it to my neighbor, the most exciting part. Step number 1 was to get the data. And the electricity meter reading industry hasn't changed much since the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Sure, the meters have become smarter, but I wanted to do much more with the data. So I went ahead and built my own meter. To do this, my goals were I wanted to own the data itself. I wanted to get more of it and also use the data to help me make better decisions on how I was using electricity. This is my first go at an electricity meter. I had to literally dust off my breadboard that I bought from Dick Smith Electronics in 1988. It's true. I bought the components. The blue piece there is called an Arduino. It's a microprocessor, and it allows me to convert the signals from analog to digital. When I was about 10 years old, I used to build circuits, but I haven't touched anything in the last 25 years, and I never thought I'd ever do this stuff again. So it took a while to get into it, but believe it or not, it actually worked. The next step after that was I had to calibrate it. I bought the blue sensor here for $5 off eBay, and I had to compare it to an actual ammeter that professionals use. After that, when I got the data, I had to give it a talk to the Raspberry Pi, which is a very small computer you see, which is the green component there. Again, another challenge that I had to figure out how to do. Once I got them talking, shaking hands, being friendly, the next step was to convert the circuit from a breadboard to a Vero board with some soldering, because if I was carrying the breadboard around, all the components would fall off. So I had to construct one of this. I hacksawed it apart, made it yay big, and I plonked it on top of the Arduino, which you can have a look later on. And that there's just a picture of what you can see here. So it's actually real. I didn't Photoshop it or anything. The next part, now that I had the data, I had to store it. And I wasn't quite sure what to do because I didn't want to use a standard database like MySQL. If I was to scale this solution and other people were to use it, I didn't want them to use a database as well. I didn't want to hold their data, otherwise I'd be just like a metering company. That's why I came into the system called the Interplanetary File System, otherwise known as IPFS. The way that works is that the data that I collect, I can then break it down into smaller chunks and then store it in a distributed fashion around the world in a decentralized manner. After I stored it, the next challenge was to allow the user to see it. To do this, I used 2 systems, one called PubNub.com and Freeboard.io. PubNub is an integration platform which allows devices to publish the information there and for other systems to subscribe. So the Raspberry Pi was reading in the data and publishing it into PubNub. Freeboard.io was an open source dashboard system that I would use to subscribe to PubNub in order to display the information that you can see down here. So just to take a step back, the first step was to grab the data. Whoops. The first step was to grab the data. The second step was to store it. The third step was to allow the user to visualize it. The fourth step was to try and sell it to my neighbor. Obviously the context here is around solar panels, because to sell it you need to be generating energy somehow. Does anyone here have a solar setup at home? One. Not bad. Has anyone thought of installing solar? A couple. Okay. The way solar works is that during the daytime, usually you're generating more than you can use because everyone's at work or at school. So you can either store it in batteries, or you can sell it back to your retailer for maybe a tenth of what you buy it for. I thought it would be interesting to see if I could sell it to my neighbour. The challenge was, though, how would I bill? Was I going to knock on my neighbour's door every day and collect 23 cents? Would I collect it every week or every month? That's when the idea of smart contracts came into play. What I could use is a smart contract, an agreement between myself and my neighbour. What does a smart contract look like? It's just some code. And this is one that I wrote up. And to help you understand it, it just has a name at the top, mPower, that I called it, a whole bunch of variables that I've declared, such as balance account, TopUp, build amount. They're just variables. And down below, just a whole bunch of functions. So if you understand one function, you'll understand the rest. Right? I've got a function here to top up. I've got a function here to get the last top-up amount. And another function to get the balance and one to build a user. And you'll see me run through this shortly in the demonstration. The demo here, what I'll do is, this is a recorded demo. Just pause that. What I'll do is I'll just go over and run this setup first. So as you can see here, I've got an electric heater, which is here. It's turned on, and I've got a sensor that's going to read the data, talk to the Raspberry Pi. It's connected to a hotspot on my cell phone over there, and it's going to take the information and display it into freeboard.io. So I'll just go okay. James, would you mind just flicking the switch to the heater there? Just this? Yeah, just flick on that. That should kick up.
Yep.
It's running, and there you go.
Running
so,
now?
Yep. 1900 watts. Could you turn it down one notch?
Yep.
Oh, you've got to put it down because there's a safety switch.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so it's running.
Yep. And there you go. So that's on the first level of 900 watts. So that's the information being read onto the dashboard there. Okay. So if you want to turn that off, what I'll do is I'll show you the smart contract. So what I've got here is, down below I've got Test RPC, which is a sandbox blockchain environment running Ethereum. And up above, I've pre-deployed the code. In the background here, you'll see that I just built a very simple web interface just to show you, as opposed to seeing command lines. The first function that I'm going to run over there is TopUp 100. So I'm depositing $100 into the smart contract. Hit enter. You'll see I get a hash return, and down below you'll see block number equals 2. I'll go and refresh the web page, and you should see $100 there. I'll run the top-up amount again. I'll put in, say, $200, hit enter. The block number is now 3. I'll refresh the page again. You can see the total balance is 300. The last top up was 200. Now I'll run the other function, which is to bill the user. In this case here, I've got the bill user function with 1. And I'm assuming that the user has used 1 kilowatt of electricity. So that's running a 1 kilowatt heater for 1 hour. Hit enter. Again, the block number is increased. And if I refresh the page, you'll see the bill amount is $26 per kilowatt hour. That's how much I'm charging at the moment. I know it's actually about 26 cents, but I made it $26. And the balance there has deducted $26. So that's an example of how you could run this transaction on the blockchain. Okay, so what did I learn in this process? Well, first of all, this stuff wasn't easy, but it wasn't impossible either. I had to do a lot of research, a lot of reading, and I'm actually probably no smarter than you guys here. All I did was research, as I mentioned, a lot, and figured stuff out, because the information's out there, but it's in pieces everywhere, and it's actually quite new as well. I also learned, and I always talk about the fact that learning is doing, because going through this whole process allowed me to see and understand at a deeper level, more so than reading about it, thinking about it, or talking about it. Where to from here? Well, there are lots of possibilities. First of all, talking about smart homes and IoT. You could imagine you could measure the amount of power in each room in your house, the kitchen, the lounge, your garage. You could also overlay analytics on top of the data. As an example, you could analyze your usage patterns, and then the dashboard could suggest to you, hey, have you thought about running your dishwasher or charging your electric car after 11 p.m. at night, because you might be on a 2-tier rate. Instead of selling electricity to your neighbor, you could sell it in a decentralized marketplace. And there are people out there building this stuff already and talking about it. And it may seem far-fetched now, but in 5 to 10 years, this will be just like eBay or TradeNet. And finally, the payment system is very interesting as well, because micropayments is actually really tricky. But the Lightning Network, if you've heard of that, enables this technology. That's really, really interesting. So in summary, I went ahead and got the data by building a meter. I stored it using IPFS. I then allowed the user to visualize it using Freeboard.io. And then I sold it to my neighbor using smart contracts. In this example here, it was just tokens, because I didn't want to tie it to a particular currency. And the value of the token is what people give it. But you can see it can be expanded upon as well. So all in all, the information, the technology is quite out there. And I hope you've learned a few things this evening, and you can leave knowing a bit more about bitcoins, or digital currencies, blockchains, and smart contracts. Thank you.